Is this in the way? Do you need that moved or anything?
I can see that.
Well, what a project.
Yes.
My gosh.
Yeah, she's learning a lot about Grandma Haradine, aren't you?
Mhm.
Just her personality, her tenaciousness. What a business person she had to be.
Well, she went to Lansing Business College, so, yeah, she had a good start there. And I don't know where she worked in Lansing.
I never heard that either.
No.
Oh, that wasn't Doubleday.
That was Kalamazoo.
That was Kalamazoo,
Okay.
yeah. But I'm sure she worked in Lansing
Mhm.
after she got out of high school and maybe even when she was in college. Now, in high school, she didn't live at home when she went to high school. She lived with a doctor and his wife in Portland. And she was kind of like a housekeeper.
Yeah, helping them.
She cooked for them and cleaned the house and went to high school.
Oh, so she was off the farm.
See, and I
by
don't
8th
think I
grade.
knew that.
Oh, you didn't?
I don't remember
Well, I
knowing
wondered because the high school, or her elementary school, or
that. Middle school.
middle school picture, and then the other was Portland High School, was her
Mhm.
high school picture.
Yeah, right. She graduated from Portland High School. And for a long time, even when we moved back here in '82, she and Dad would go to Portland for a high school reunion. And then it got so, she was the only one left.
It's a bad reunion.
A reunion of one.
So she was with a doctor?
She lived with a doctor and his wife, and they loved lamb. And Grandma had to cook the lamb, and she hated lamb. That's why we never had
I don't ever remember having
lamb or
that.
lamb chops or anything like that. She hated it. She couldn't stand the odor of it even.
I wonder why she left why they had her leave the farm. Did all of their siblings
I
leave
don't
to
know
go to?
anything.
Maybe that was the only high school or the best.
That was high school. I don't know anything about that, Amy.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, the only one that did any education beyond high school was Aunt Dorothy. And she went to, not necessarily nursing school, but she was, what do you call it, nurse's aide or.
I thought she ended up being a nurse, did she? I always thought she
No.
was.
Well, she was a caregiver,
Okay.
a caregiver.
It seems like she identified herself as a nurse.
Well, she may have.
Yeah. Yeah, that was embellished. Well, and Sister Corona would have had to, because she taught all those years.
Oh, well, Sister
Would've-
Crona left home after 8th grade and went to Nazareth and had all her education there.
Okay.
Nazareth College and,
So maybe that was kind of the thing, they left home around 8th grade.
and
Maybe.
see, I don't know, the other sisters would have been Irene and Carrie. And I don't know if they even went to high school.
Yeah. They
I'm
may have
sure
just
Irene probably didn't.
I'm thinking
Oh.
she didn't either.
stayed on the farm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's the only one that stayed as a farmer's wife and
Yes.
stayed.
Yes, she
Right
was
there
the
on the
only
farm.
one. You know, she married Joe Pun, Jim,
Joe,
Joe
yeah.
Pun. And he had a farm, and she cooked on a wood stove until she died.
Really?
Hmm.
The kids remodeled her kitchen and got her an electric stove, and she never used it.
She did what she was familiar
Well,
with. She was
She probably knew
a
how that cooked.
She baked, I mean, she used to make something like 60 dozen cookies at Christmas time.
On a wood, in a wood burning oven and,
Yeah,
Mhm.
you know,
If you wanted it hotter, you added a little extra, and if you wanted it, you had to wait till it died down to get it a little
Yeah.
less heated.
so did Grandma stay close with her siblings?
she was the closest, I always thought, to her sister-in-law, Aunt Bee, Fred's wife. She had the one brother who lived. He was the oldest. And then Sister Carla. Then I don't know what the succession of the rest of them were.
Maybe Irene,
But Grandma was the youngest. And
by quite a lot, wasn't she, like 5 years or so?
oh, I'd say even more than that.
Yeah.
Because there were 4 other sisters in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there was one, a boy that died.
I remember
And-
that. Grandma says she remembers a doctor coming to the house. He was a baby, wasn't he, or just an
Yeah, he was a
infant?
baby.
On the dining room table and trying to, medicate him or save him. But it was some kind of a flu that was going
Virus
on or something.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'd say she was the closest to Aunt Bee.
But she stayed in touch with all
She
the
stayed in
sisters and
touch
they
with, yeah.
got together.
We used to go up to Irene and Joe's to visit, not much to carry. And Aunt Dorothy never married, and she lived in Lansing, but she used to come out all the time to Irene's. I mean, she was like, she was totally the opposite of Grandma. Grandma never told anybody too much what to do or how to do it. But Aunt Dorothy was like a drill sergeant. She used to tell Jim when it was time to take his hogs to the market.
Like she knew all that about farming even.
Yeah, oh, I mean, she was unbelievable. And everybody snickered about her and made fun of her behind her back, but
Rolled their eyes, Aunt Dorothy, what she's up to.
she was something else. But back to Grandma.
Well, tell us about your impressions of us going up to visit on the farm. Just,
We used to go, basically, Grandma and you and I, before Ed was born.
mhm.
I don't remember too much, except I knew it was always just the 3 of us. Grandpa never went until later. Much, much later.
Did Grandma's family accept Grandpa?
No.
No.
That
Ever.
might have been why he didn't go. Well, they eloped. They were against that, and he wasn't Catholic.
He wasn't Catholic.
He had a lot of
Strikes against him.
Yeah. No,
But for
So
us,
Grandma would drive you guys
yeah.
there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we had so much fun. I mean, going to the farm was fun. We could ride the ponies. We could.
they had some kind of swing up
We
in the
had
hay
a
loft.
They had, their barn was across, on the back of the property, and it was down low, but then it was high, and the loft was up high. And then they had a road that came out of the loft. And Bill, my cousin, had rigged up this swing with this great big rope where you could go from the loft and swing out and come back. Oh my word, we used to have so much fun.
And what'd Grandma think of all that? It was okay?
You know, that's the one thing about Grandma. I do not ever remember one time ever her telling us, no, don't do this, be careful of that, you can't do that. She never did. I mean, we were just
On our own.
on our own. We could do whatever we wanted. Bill used to take us for hay rides.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably the most vivid memory I have is of him pushing me in they had a great big concrete watering whatever for the cows and the horses, and it was yucky. I mean yucky. And it had a wide
Yeah.
all the way around it. And I used to walk around that, and he pushed me in one time.
Oh no. What was that car ride home like?
Um,
And that was Grandma's farm growing up then? Same
yes,
farm?
Yes, yes, yes. And that was outside of Grand Ledge, and the community was called Eagle, E-G-A-G-L-E, Eagle, Michigan. And the house was large, and it had a wood stove, no indoor toilet, and no running water. They had a pump. Do you remember the pump in the kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
Where we would wash our hands. Grandma Birkins had a big dining room table, and when we would go up there to visit, the adults, that's when Joe and Irene and Dorothy would come over, and then there was Mary Margaret and Bill and Jerry and us. And we would play and run around the house and make noise like you wouldn't believe. And the adults never said shut up or be quiet or don't
Come
do
sit
so much
down.
running. Remember we used to play with the wet washcloth,
I don't remember.
tag, and throw it, and if it hit you were it.
Paige is learning all sorts of games.
Yeah,
I
all
remember
sorts of
from
games.
our growing up, we played, remember shadow tag?
Yeah.
And Paige said, how did that go? And I said, well, you'd make yourself as little as you could, so you didn't have a shadow, and try to keep away from whoever was it. Kick the can, you hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean,
Was it a big farm?
sort of, yeah.
Basically, it was a dairy farm, wasn't it?
Well,
That
yeah,
they
they
sold.
had quite a few cows, and they had acreage, and they grew corn and wheat. They had a big silo.
I think all the cows were dairy cows though, because I
They
remember
were.
they went
They were,
milking the cows every
Yeah.
day.
yeah.
Do you know how they wound up there? In Eagle, Michigan?
I have no idea.
And who do you think,
Well, I had.
Frank was our grandpa's name,
Right, now.
but he was,
Were
his,
he and his wife, Grandma, were they immigrants?
that's what I wondered, whether, or there was a Fritz, I'm thinking maybe Fritz, who was Frank's
Father?
father, might have been the one to immigrate. Maybe Rob can find that
Rob
out.
has that, we can look that up.
That I don't,
From Germany.
yeah, How they, well, there was quite an enclave of German people.
Okay,
In
well,
this
that would make
area.
sense, yeah.
Yeah,
Might have just known somebody and,
yeah,
Wanted to be there,
mhm.
yeah.
yeah. Grandpa Birkins. He had a big mustache.
Mhm.
I remember that. And there are pictures over in your
Mm-hmm.
what's left. If you ever want to get those out sometime and look at them. So that would be your great-grandfather. And then on my dad's side, your great-great-grandfather,
Samuel.
Samuel. So it would be Paige's great-great-great-grandfather.
Uh-huh.
It was our great-grandfather, and we knew him,
Yes. Yeah.
because he lived into his 90s, I'm thinking.
He was 95, I think,
Wow.
when he passed away.
Wow.
So there's a
Good
lot of
genes.
longevity
Yeah,
on
good
both
genes.
sides,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Because we looked it up, and all of Grandma's sisters, Irene was 98, Grandma and Dorothy 96, and Sister Corona 95,
Yeah.
and we lost track of Carrie.
Yeah.
We never really knew that family.
No.
So then probably Grandma being with the doctor and doing that kind of work, she wasn't necessarily then drawn back to being on a farm, so she went.
No, she didn't. Well, and I think when she lived in Lansing,
Mhm.
when she was going to business school, her friend Gert Schrammick introduced her to Grandpa.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because she was dating John at the time, John Schrammick, who was,
Gert was dating John, and John and Dad were both in the dairy department at Michigan State.
Got it.
And I don't know that Gert was even a student at Michigan State. On that part, I have no idea. But Grandma was more than likely finished with business school
Mhm.
and working. And because, well, Grandpa would have been in undergraduate school. But then when he graduated, he won a scholarship to the University of Illinois for his master's degree. And it was during that time
That they dated.
that they eloped and got married.
Ah. So he went away and she was still in Lansing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as soon as he graduated, he got the job with Detroit Creamery. He
Yes.
couldn't have been there
Too long, no. he
because
worked in
you were
Detroit.
born in
I was born in Kalamazoo.
Yeah,
So
so he,
that must have, probably must have gotten him a job with Steel Test and that took him to Kalamazoo? or-
yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
from Detroit Creamery,
Yeah,
he got offered from Seal Test in
Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo.
And then eventually became plant manager there?
No, I think he started out there.
Oh, he started as
Yeah.
plant manager, okay.
And
And then when did Grandma work for Double Days? Like before
I
you were
think-
born and a little after?
I have no idea about that. I just know that she worked at Double Days. And I'm thinking it was either just weekends, probably.
Oh, you think so? I was thinking maybe she had a full-time job there, but maybe
That
not.
I don't know. She never talked about it. And when they first moved to Kalamazoo, they lived kitty corner from Central High School on West Ridge in an apartment. And the house is still there.
Then did they move to Gillickson?
Then they, Gilkerson,
Gilkerson's.
on West Main. They lived in I think that was a rented house also. And I don't think they lived there too long.
I think they lived there when I was born.
Oh, they did, so
Mhm.
it would have been,
And
well, they
then
probably were on West Edge about a year or so, and then they probably moved to,
that house on
Yeah.
Gilkerson.
and then they bought the house on Logan.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the house you guys remember then?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever been, has Ann ever taken you out
I
there?
think, did we drive by, or maybe I just drove by your high school?
Yeah, we went probably quite often by the high school. I was going to take
Yeah.
either both Amy and Paige or, because they ask about how we got to school and all those things, is that we just walked down the alley.
We walked down the alley.
And it was maybe
We were,
6 doors, 7 houses.
yeah, about
To
a
the
block
school.
away from the school.
Yeah. What was Grandma like as a mom when you were little? Or-
When we were young.
Mhm.
You know, the thing I remember the most was baking.
With Grandma?
We used to bake a lot.
Anything in particular, or just?
No, cakes and cookies. We had the house on Logan Street, many of the houses, milk used to be delivered. We had a milk chute. And it was a square chute that opened up to the outside and opened up to the inside. And it was about like this. And the milkman would leave the milk there. And Grandma would we'd make pies, and we'd set the pies out there to cool
In the
in the milk chute.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was there favorite pies, or whatever fruit was in season?
Well, like we did a lot of pies, I remember, in the fall, because Grandpa's aunt and uncle owned a fruit farm in Sparta. And we would go up there and get apples and peaches and whatever else.
And then were they frozen for the year, or did she sell them, or?
No, they used to sell. They sold everything.
I mean,
A
not
lot
the
of-
fruit, but the pies.
Oh, the pies. Oh, no, we would eat them.
Yeah. They weren't frozen or sold.
No, we would eat them.
Well, Grandma did a lot of canning too.
We did a lot of
Uh,
canning.
Of whatever they came, the peaches, we had
We had
cans of.
peaches, pears, we made applesauce.
Yeah,
Yeah, we used to come back with a bushel of pears and have to can them right away.
Mhm. They don't,
Um,
yeah, things don't last.
I mean, even when Michael was born in 1961, we were living in Lansing. Larry was practicing law there. And my mother called and said, I'm up at the farm and the cherries are ripe and they're gonna be ruined if we don't pick. And so Larry and Robbie drove to Sparta from Lansing, came back with a bushel of
Oh
cherries
gosh.
and peaches. And Michael was just a few weeks old. And they ran out and bought all the jars. And we spent all night long, Robbie, Lori, and Larry and I, canning.
Where were Grandma and Grandpa?
oh, they were back home.
Oh.
So, I mean, it just was, and then Larry got accepted into the FBI, and we got moved to Mobile. So we had to
Oh, you
move,
went to Mobile first.
yeah, we had to move all that can. But I can tell you, in the middle of winter in Mobile, those peaches were outstanding.